One afternoon in March, the city sky was overcast, heavy with gray clouds that mirrored the emotions of the passengers on bus number 79. It wasn't a special bus, but that day, it became the thread of fate connecting six complete strangers. Victor, the bus driver, was a middle-aged man with a weathered face. For 20 years, he had driven the same route, but lately it felt heavier than ever. Just a month ago, his only son, Ethan, was accused of being involved in a drug trafficking ring. Victor believed in his son's innocence, but had no way to prove it. His wife had left years ago, leaving him to raise their child alone. Each day he went to work, consumed by frustration and helplessness. Near the back of the bus sat Lila, clutching a red suitcase tightly. Her eyes were shadowed with sorrow, avoiding the glances of others. She had just left her abusive husband after enduring 3 years of torment. The suitcase held all she owned, a few clothes and an old photograph of her mother. She didn't know where she was going. She just wanted to escape the pain. In the seat ahead was Felix, a scruffy 10-year-old boy huddled near the window. His torn backpack contained little more than a notebook and a few pencils. An orphan living on the streets, he was running away from a gang of street kids who forced him to pickpocket. Deep inside, he nurtured a simple dream: to go to school like other children. By the door sat Leon, a man in his 40s wearing a worn-out coat. His head hung low, avoiding eye contact with everyone. Once a brilliant engineer, he had lost his ability to work after a terrible accident, leaving him unemployed. With his family broken and friends gone, Leon survived on odd jobs, burdened by a sense of futility. Opposite Leon was Anna, a young woman scribbling intently in a small notebook. A freelance writer, she was stuck in her career and had taken the bus in search of inspiration. Yet deep within, she carried a hidden grief, the sudden death of her younger brother, which continued to haunt her. In the front row, Iris, an elderly woman in her 70s, held a small bag tightly. No one knew she had escaped from a nursing home. Inside her bag was a letter from her son, written years ago but never answered. She was determined to find him, even if she wasn't sure she'd be welcomed. As the bus rolled along, a truck suddenly sped out of an intersection. Victor swerved sharply, causing the bus to skid off balance and plunge down a roadside slope. Glass shattered, screams filled the air, and chaos descended. When they regained consciousness, the six strangers realized they had survived, but the bus was precariously perched on the edge of a cliff. With no phone signal and no sign of help, they were stranded in a dense, desolate forest. The strangers began to reveal their true selves as they struggled to survive. Victor, though weighed down by his worries, felt responsible for everyone's safety. Lila was panicked and wanted to leave on her own, but feared the unknown forest. Felix was wary, always on edge from years of being bullied. Leon remained cold and distant, reluctant to get involved. Anna stayed composed, documenting everything as a way to cope with her anxiety. Iris, despite her frailty, was the first to suggest sharing the little food she had. Their first conflicts erupted as they debated how to manage their limited resources and find a way out. But just as they thought they'd found a plan, a strange noise from deep within the forest sent chills down their spines. Six strangers, bound by chance, realized that their only hope for survival was to trust and work together, something none of them had imagined possible. Yet with their pasts, hidden secrets, and the unknown dangers lurking ahead, could they truly become a united group? As night fell, the forest enveloped them in darkness. Sitting around a small fire Victor had lit, they began to discuss their next steps. Victor suggested resting for the night and splitting into teams to search for a way out the following morning. Lila, still uneasy, objected. "We can't just sit here waiting to die. Who knows what's out there watching us?" Leon, his voice cold, interjected. "And what's your plan? Wander into the woods and get eaten alive?" Tensions rose until Victor raised his voice for the first time. "That's enough. If we keep turning on each other, we won't need the forest to destroy us. We'll do it ourselves." Victor's words silenced the group, but the air remained heavy with unease. The next morning, the group split into two teams. Victor led Felix and Anna north, while Leon, Lila, and Iris headed south. Victor's team found a small stream with footprints along its banks. Felix grew uneasy. Someone was here before us. But why did they leave? Anna examined the prints and noticed more than one set. along with drag marks that hinted someone had been severely injured. Leon's team stumbled upon an abandoned wooden cabin. Inside, they found an old table and scattered belongings. Iris trembled as she said, "People lived here once, but it looks like they left in a hurry." Lila discovered a faded photograph of a family of 4, their faces scratched beyond recognition. Leon frowned as he muttered, "We're not the first ones trapped here." When the 2 teams regrouped and shared their findings, unease settled over them. Felix and Lila felt an inexplicable dread, as though the forest itself harbored a sinister secret. That night around the fire, Iris suddenly suggested, "Maybe we should share our stories." "I don't believe it's a coincidence that we're all here together." Her words hung in the air. Victor finally sighed and spoke. "I've been driving this bus for years, but I never wanted this job. It was all for my son, Ethan. Now he's in prison for a crime I know he didn't commit." Anna followed, her voice trembling. "I'm a writer, but I haven't been able to work since my brother died in an accident 2 years ago. I can't stop blaming myself." When it was Leon's turn, he refused to speak. Lila simply walked away from the group, silent. The next morning, the group awoke to find Lila missing. Victor quickly organized a search, splitting up again. Anna, Felix, and Victor followed the stream but found no trace of her. Meanwhile, Leon, Iris, and Lila's team returned to the cabin, where they discovered a journal with chilling entries. "I've tried to leave, but every time I do, I'm pulled back. The forest doesn't let anyone go." Just then, Victor found a trail of blood leading behind the cabin. As they followed it, a scream tore through the forest. They ran toward the sound and found Lila trapped in a crude snare of ropes and spikes. Someone had set the trap deliberately. The group chased after the scream, only to uncover a chilling truth. Lila was trapped in an old snare, though it was clear that someone had set it up recently. Who had placed the trap? What awaited them in the forest? Would the secrets of the others come to light, or would they only make things worse? The sound of Lila's scream led the group to a dense area of the forest, where she was tied in a crude trap made of rope and sharpened wooden stakes. Victor hurried to untie her, while Iris used water from her bottle to clean the wound on Lila's leg. Still trembling, but with fury in her eyes, Lila said, "Someone else is here." "I heard footsteps. They set this trap on purpose to catch me." Felix, hiding behind Anna, whispered cautiously, "Could it be the people from that family? The ones who abandoned the wooden cabin?" His question made everyone remember the scratched-out faces in the photograph and the eerie journal entries they'd found in the cabin. No one spoke, but the atmosphere grew heavier. As the group returned to their temporary shelter, tension filled the air. Leon broke the silence. "We can't keep wandering aimlessly like this. Everyone has their own issues, but right now, survival has to be the priority." Lila scoffed, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Easy for you to say, but what have you done? Sit there and criticize everyone else?" The argument escalated, and for the first time, Victor raised his voice. "Enough. If we keep doubting and attacking each other, we won't need traps. We'll destroy ourselves." His words silenced everyone, but failed to extinguish the simmering discord. That night, while everyone rested, Anna felt uneasy. She stepped outside their shelter and noticed a faint, flickering light deep within the forest. Curious, she woke Victor and Felix to investigate. When the 3 approached the source of the light, they found a torch planted firmly in the ground. Beside it, words had been carved into a rock with a sharp blade. "The forest keeps those who do not belong." Felix clung to Anna's hand, his voice trembling. "What does this mean? Who wrote it?" Victor looked around and tried to reassure them. "It's probably someone's idea of a joke. Don't panic." But Anna saw the unease in his eyes. The next morning, Iris suddenly collapsed. The group scrambled to care for her, but when she regained consciousness, she refused food or water. In a moment of vulnerability, she grasped Leon's hand and whispered, "I've done wrong, so much wrong." Her cryptic words unsettled Leon. He pulled Anna aside and whispered, "She's hiding something. We can't trust anyone here completely." Anna didn't respond, but a growing sense of doubt began to take root in her heart. Lila, after the accident, became withdrawn and often sat alone. One evening, while the others were gathered around the campfire, she quietly opened her red suitcase to check its contents. Unexpectedly, Felix approached her and noticed a folded piece of paper falling out of the suitcase. He picked it up, but Lila snatched it back immediately. The boy had caught a glimpse and realized it was part of a forest map. Felix asked, "Do you know the way out?" Lila didn't answer. She shoved the map back into her suitcase and walked away. However, her actions did not escape Leon, who had been watching everything from afar. That night, when everyone was fast asleep, Leon silently rummaged through Lila's suitcase. He found the map fragment and a mysterious letter with the chilling message. "Go to this forest and bury all the evidence. Don't let anyone know the truth." Leon held the paper tightly, his heart pounding. As he turned to leave, he realized Lila was standing right behind him, her gaze cold and sharp as a blade. Their confrontation unveiled a horrifying secret. But what had brought Lila to this forest, and why did she have the map? Could the other secrets be tied to this place as well? Leon and Lila faced each other in the darkness, the flickering light from the campfire reflecting on their tense expressions. Lila stepped closer, her voice icy but trembling slightly. "Give back what you took, and don't tell anyone." Leon clutched the map and letter tightly, his eyes filled with suspicion. "Do you really think I'll stay silent after seeing this? Why are you here? And why do you have a map?" Lila moved even closer, her voice dropping to a near whisper. "If you tell anyone, none of us will make it out alive. Trust me, you don't want to know the truth." Leon hesitated. His life had been a series of failures, but his survival instincts surged within him. He decided not to escalate the situation, but in his mind, he resolved to keep a close watch on Lila. He slipped the map back into her suitcase but kept the letter. He needed to uncover more before deciding whether to share what he knew with the group. The next morning, Victor led the group to search for water. When they reached a stream, they unexpectedly encountered an old, frail man in tattered clothing sitting by the water. The man looked at them with tired eyes but showed no fear. Victor spoke first. "Who are you? Why are you here?" The old man chuckled weakly. "I'm someone trapped by this forest, just like all of you." His words sent a chill through the group. Lila stepped back, her eyes filled with unease. Iris clutched Felix's hand, trembling, and whispered, "There's something wrong with this forest." The old man continued, "Do you think you're stuck here by chance? Each of you has a reason for being here. This forest only holds on to those carrying pain or guilt. If you want to escape, you'll have to face yourselves." Victor frowned. "We don't believe in superstitions. We just need to find the way out." The old man smirked. "Try if you must, but before you leave, there will be a price to pay." With that, he stood up and disappeared into the forest, leaving the group in a heavy, fearful silence. That night, Felix sat alone by the fire. Anna approached him, trying to comfort the boy. He looked up at her with sad eyes and said, "Who do you think I am? Just an orphan? Remember, I've done something terrible." Anna was taken aback but gently asked, "What makes you think that?" Felix lowered his head and whispered, "I used to live in a foster home. Once I pushed another boy down the stairs because I was jealous. He didn't survive. Ever since, I've been haunted by it. I think this forest is punishing me." His confession shocked Anna, but she simply wrapped her arms around him, saying nothing. The next morning, the group discovered strange carvings on the trees surrounding their camp. The symbols looked like writing, but none of them could decipher it. Iris trembled as she said, "I've seen these before. In an old book. They're symbols of punishment." Lila snapped, "Enough! Stop spreading fear. This is just a forest, not some mystical place." But Iris shook her head, her eyes filled with worry. "You don't understand. There are things that can't be explained with reason." Unable to bear the tension, Leon finally revealed the letter he had kept. As he read it aloud, the group fell into panic. Victor glared at Lila, furious. "You know something, don't you? You've led us into a trap, haven't you?" Lila shouted back. "I didn't lead anyone here. I just wanted to escape my past." Anna stepped in, trying to calm the situation. "We need to stay rational. Maybe all of us are connected to this forest in ways we don't yet realize." That night, while everyone was resting, a scream echoed from the distance. The group jolted awake, but upon checking, they realized no one was missing. Felix trembled as he said, "That was someone's voice, but it sounded familiar." The scream faded, leaving behind an unsettling fear that lingered in the air. Though secrets were slowly unraveling, the group had yet to find a way out of the forest. The strange symbols, the mysterious letter, and now the scream in the night seemed like pieces of a puzzle they needed to solve before it was too late. The events of the previous night left the group with an enduring sense of dread. Each of them felt as if they were being watched, as though the forest had eyes and was silently observing their every move. The next morning, they decided to set aside their personal conflicts to focus on escaping, but this only served to highlight the secrets buried deep within each of them. While searching for clues that might lead them out, Anna and Felix discovered another carving on a tree. This time, the inscription bore a name, Ethan. Anna turned to Victor, her voice filled with suspicion. "Ethan, isn't that your son's name?" Victor froze for a moment but quickly shook his head. "It's just a coincidence. This forest is trying to make us panic." But Anna noticed his hands trembling, and his eyes betrayed a deep unease. Meanwhile, Leon, who had secretly kept the piece of the map, finally revealed it to the group. When they spread it out, they noticed that the map contained markings identical to the carvings they had found on the trees. Leela immediately pointed to a spot on the map. "Here, this spot. We need to go there. It could be the way out." Iris furrowed her brows, scrutinizing the map closely, but it could also be a trap. The group argued for a while, but in the end, they decided to head toward the marked location on the map. On the way, Lila grew increasingly silent. When the group stopped to rest, Anna approached her gently and asked, "You're not here by coincidence, are you? That letter, the map fragment, everything points to you knowing something." Lila sighed deeply and eventually broke into tears. "I used to be a defense attorney for a case, but I made a mistake. The person I defended wasn't as innocent as I thought. Because of my wrong decision, I destroyed a family. They sent me that letter, wanting me to come here to understand their pain. I just thought this might be a way to atone." Lila's confession left Anna speechless. She realized that everyone in the group carried a burden, a darkness they couldn't let go of. As the group neared the location marked on the map, they realized that Iris had disappeared. Victor and Leon turned back to search for her, while Anna, Felix, and Lila continued moving forward. Felix suddenly recalled the scream from the night before and said, "I think Iris heard something. Maybe she's chasing after it." The marked location on the map led them to an open area where the ground was covered with thick grass. After a thorough search, Leon discovered a wooden door leading down to a dark basement. As they stepped inside, the basement was filled with old belongings, family photos, diaries, and dried bloodstains on the walls. Felix found an old photo showing Victor with a young boy. He asked, "This is you, isn't it? And this is Ethan?" Victor nodded, his voice choked. "Yes, that's me and Ethan, but I don't understand why it's here." In a hidden corner of the basement, the group discovered a wooden box. Inside, they found a notebook. The notebook revealed that Ethan, Victor's son, had once ventured into this forest with a group of friends to perform a strange ritual, but none of them ever returned. Victor collapsed to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "I thought it was just an accident. I tried to deny the truth, that I was the one who pushed my son into danger. I should never have let him join that trip." As Victor grieved, Leon noticed another door at the far end of the basement. When they opened it, they found a passage leading to sunlight. The group rejoiced, but Lila warned, "If we leave without confronting the truth, we'll be pulled back here." The group stood at the exit, torn between leaving the forest and facing the darkness within themselves. The door seemed to promise freedom, but would the forest truly let them go? The sunlight streaming through the old wooden door offered a glimmer of hope, but no one dared step through. Silence engulfed them as Layla's warning about facing the truth lingered in their minds. Leon broke the quiet. "We can't stay here forever. If this is our only chance to leave, I'm going first." As Leon approached the door, a cold breeze swept through, making him hesitate. From a distance, they heard Iris's voice calling loudly, Don't go. Come back here. She emerged from the shadows, her face pale but her eyes sharp with urgency. Pointing toward the passage, she said, her voice trembling, "That door isn't the way out, it's a trap." Lila, skeptical, challenged her. "How do you know? Where have you been?" Iris sighed deeply, her voice heavy. "I found another place, a place where all our questions will be answered. But first we must face ourselves. If we don't, this forest will keep us forever." Iris led the group to an open clearing where large stone circles were arranged in a spiral pattern. Inside each circle were familiar objects that each person recognized immediately. Victor saw Ethan's backpack. Felix spotted the toy knife he once used to scare another child. Leela noticed a small mirror reflecting her tear-streaked face. Leon found a bottle of liquor, a reminder of the years he drowned in alcohol after losing everything. Each of them seemed irresistibly drawn to their respective circles. Inside the circles, their memories unfolded vividly, like a slow-motion film. Victor saw the moment Ethan begged him for permission to join the trip. He had ignored his uneasy feelings, wanting to prove he trusted his son. Now his indifference loomed before him like a verdict of guilt. Felix saw the boy he had pushed, the terrified look in the boy's eyes as he lost his balance and tumbled down the stairs. Felix broke down, crying and shouting, "I didn't mean to!" Lila relived the moment she stood in court, defending a man who had committed a heinous crime. The family of the victim appeared before her, their eyes filled with pain, silently accusing her of ignoring their suffering to protect the guilty. Leon found himself alone in a dark room, clutching a bottle, mumbling, "It's all my fault." Each of them was confronted by their deepest regrets and the truths they had tried to bury. Anna, the only one not drawn into a circle, approached each person. She gently placed a hand on their shoulder and whispered, "No one is perfect, but the past doesn't define who you are now. Forgive yourself." Felix was the first to step out of his circle. He clung to Anna, sobbing uncontrollably. Victor looked up, tears streaming down his face, and murmured, "Ethan, please forgive your father, will you?" One by one, the others emerged from their circles, their eyes showing a glimmer of relief, even though their pain hadn't completely vanished. As they stepped away from the stone spiral, a new path unfolded before them. Iris spoke softly. "This forest doesn't hold on to those who are willing to let go." They followed the path, the light growing brighter with each step. Before they left the forest, the old man they had met earlier stood waiting at the exit. He smiled warmly and said, "You've done it. Remember, life outside is full of circles like these. Don't forget what you've learned here." He turned and disappeared into the forest, leaving the group standing in silent reflection. As they left the forest, none of them were the same as before. Each carried with them a profound lesson about forgiveness, repentance, and the true meaning of confronting the past. They had found not only a way out, but also a new family, pieces of love and hope fitting together like a perfect puzzle. Thank you for joining us in Pieces of Love. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel so you won't miss our next tales. Don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments. Your support inspires us to keep creating. See you in the next video.